They don't need to have something right away to make them feel better the way that somebody with OCD would. In my head. Hello everybody, if you're new here, I do mental health videos Monday through Friday, so if you're interested in learning about mental health along with me and keeping your mental health in good shape, hit subscribe and hit the bell after you hit subscribe to get notified every time that I do a video. Tonight I'm going to be talking about obsessive compulsive personality disorder and the difference between that and obsessive compulsive disorder. Obsessive compulsive personality disorder, also known as OCPD, I feel like it's something that we don't talk enough about, so let's do it tonight. Let's do a quick recap of what obsessive compulsive disorder is and what obsessive compulsive personality disorder is. Obsessive compulsive disorder focuses on obsessions and compulsions, although you don't have to have both of those present to have obsessive compulsive disorder. And an obsession is a repetitive thought about something, and a compulsion is an action that reduces the anxiety that's driving that obsessive thought. That's obsessive compulsive disorder. It's a repetitive behavior. Sadly, the archetype is the person who washes their hands all the time, but there is way more to it. You can have just obsessions where it's called pure OCD is typically the way we talk about it, where you're just questioning your own thoughts over and over again, and other thoughts come in, and those are the compulsions that kind of soothe the original thoughts. So that's obsessive compulsive disorder. My glasses are fogging here. And obsessive compulsive personality disorder, while related, it seems like they're related in some way. The research seems to have a link between the two of them. Obsessive compulsive personality disorder, it doesn't have that same tactile fear that drives the obsessions and the compulsions in obsessive compulsive disorder. It's more that there are these rigid rules that people follow, and if those rules are not being followed, that's where they start to get anxious. But day to day, like, they don't freak out about not doing something right now and not doing their rules. It's not like as ritualistic. It's just that they have a rigid way that they feel that things have to be done in life, which can lead to something like hoarding disorder, because they feel like they have to hold on to things. I don't know if I'm really capturing it that well. Obsessive compulsive personality disorder revolves around 4 maladaptive personality traits, and those maladaptive personality traits are restricted affectivity, which basically means you don't show, like, your emotions are blunted. There's also perseveration, which is when you continue to do something long past when it's useful. So maybe checking the lock on the door, for example, you may check it a couple of times even though it's not serving you to check the lock anymore. Something that I personally deal with a lot is perseveration. I'm not really sure why. There's also rigid perfectionism, which is when you need things to be done a certain way, which is kind of characteristic of obsessive compulsive personality disorder. And there's intimacy avoidance, which you can kind of see how those other things would get in the way of intimacy, because when you have rigid rules that have to be followed, it's hard to just let go and be vulnerable. And so you may feel inadequate when it comes to intimate situations, and you may avoid them. So I have to admit, I don't know that much about obsessive compulsive personality disorder myself, and I looked before leaving tonight at some research studies to try to understand it better. And there was a recent research study that seemed to highlight one of the differences between OCD and OCPD, and that was that people with OCPD, they can delay the reward, the gratification from what would be called a compulsion in obsessive compulsive disorder. So they don't need to have something right away to make them feel better the way that somebody with OCD would. They just kind of have these rules that make them upset when they're not followed, or when things are not done a particular way or done the way that they've always been done. But there's not so much stress and agony over needing the reward to alleviate that. Something else that just differentiates the two of them is that obsessive compulsive personality disorder is ego syntonic, which means you feel okay about it, you feel good about yourself. There's nothing distressing about it, and part of that may be due to the fact that being a personality disorder, there could be a low level of awareness that there's a disorder in the first place, whereas somebody with OCD, it's kind of hard to deny because the anxiety is tactile and it's always present. Sorry, lately I just don't have a lot of luck out here when I'm filming to be able to film in peace and quiet and not being disturbed. So Something else that distinguishes OCD and OCPD is that the people with OCPD seem to have a lot of difficulty in switching rules. They've done a test on this where they had them follow a specific set of rules that they had to kind of learn and then unlearn very quickly over and over and over again, and they had a lot of difficulty with this, whereas other people without OCPD wouldn't have as much difficulty. They'd be more flexible in bending and being able to try different ways of doing things. This kind of goes along with that personality trait of perseveration, which is something that I know I've had difficulty with. I'm somebody who just likes to do things the same way every time I do them. I like to have things planned out, and when they're not planned out and they're not done the way that I feel that they should be done, whatever that happens to be in the moment, I do have stress around that. Now, that's not a huge problem of mine. I don't have OCPD myself, and I don't feel like I'm necessarily the best qualified person to talk about this, but somebody that I like here on YouTube, there's a channel, it's OCPD, My Life in Debris. I'm going to link to it in the description. Check them out. They are somebody who has experienced OCPD themselves, and you may learn a lot from them. I've been learning as I've been watching their videos. I think the biggest difference really between OCPD and OCD is that the person with the personality disorder doesn't necessarily have as much outward stress about it. They just have these rules that they follow. Again, it may appear like hoarding sometimes, but it's just a part of their personality. It's not causing them stress, obviously, to them. It's not something that becomes ritualized in the sense that you need to do it over and over again. The obsessions are not so strong that you need compulsions right away, but the personality is rigid and they have difficulty with letting go of these rules and feeling like things need to be done a certain way. Whereas somebody with OCD has very specific things that happen. They get very specific obsessive thoughts and they have very specific compulsions that relieve those thoughts. Now, it's not to say that the rules that somebody at OCPD has aren't specific, but there's much more delay. That's like the big distinguisher here, that you're able to delay the compulsion or the reward or what have you. It's not so much that there's a compulsive side to OCPD, which is kind of funny because C is in the name. All right, so if you're somebody who has OCPD, or if you know somebody who has OCPD, please let me know what it's like for you. Am I describing it correctly? What has your experience been like? What is difficult for you? Maybe you're somebody who has both OCD and OCPD, because that is possible. Do you recognize how the symptoms are different within yourself? Share that down below so we can learn from each other. If you're new here, hit subscribe and hit the bell after you hit subscribe to get access to my mental health videos. I have over 225 and I just keep making them Monday through Friday. If you like what I do here on this channel and you want to support me, head on over to Patreon. You can support me over there. There's also free worksheets over there on things like boundaries, self-esteem, and stress regulation, so check those out. And I just want to say thank you because I have gone over 500 subscribers, and it's actually something that happened a couple of days ago, but YouTube kind of flounders with the numbers sometimes and you'll go over and under and over and under. But I think it's pretty safe to say that I'm on the other side of 500 subscribers, so thank you to all of my subscribers. Of course, thank you to my patrons. I know who you are and I appreciate that you're there for me, and I will see you next time, everyone. Thanks again.